Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dive right into the facts behind literally one of the most famous maritime legends in human history. I mean, we've all heard the crazy stories, we've seen the movies, but today we're sticking strictly to the source material to finally separate fact from fiction. So let's just get right to it and confront the big question that's captured the world's imagination for decades. For years, we've been told that giant ships and airplanes just vanish into thin air, leaving absolutely zero trace behind. But is there actually some sinister, unexplainable force out there? Or is there a much more logical explanation hiding just beneath the surface? Well, before we can even try to solve this puzzle, we kind of need to lock down where our supposed crime scene actually is. The thing is, the Bermuda Triangle isn't some recognized territory on an official map. It's really just a roughly defined patch of water in the North Atlantic Ocean. If you draw an imaginary triangle between Miami, Florida, the island of Bermuda, and San Juan, Puerto Rico, boom, that's it. That's the exact stage where all of these supposed disappearances take place. All right, Section 1, Popular Theories and Myths. You know how wild human imagination can get when we face the unknown, right? Pop culture has absolutely run with some incredibly speculative, completely paranormal theories. First up, the Atlantis connection. Some folks actually claim the lost city is sitting right at the bottom of the triangle, and its ancient, mythical technology is what's scrambling our modern electronics. And then, of course, you've got the UFO theories. Aliens just snatching massive planes right out of the sky. Oh, and if that wasn't wild enough for you, there are even claims of time warps, portals, parallel dimensions, the whole shebang. They're super popular ideas, for sure, but they are entirely fictional. Take the famous compass myth, for example. I'm sure you've heard this one. Compasses supposedly spin wildly out of control in the Bermuda Triangle because of some crazy magnetic anomaly. Well, the reality? What's actually happening is a totally known navigational phenomenon called compass variation. It's basically just the natural difference between magnetic north and true north. And here's the kicker. This happens in tons of places all over the globe. The Bermuda Triangle is absolutely not unique in this regard. It's completely normal. Moving on to Section 2, Science and Rational Explanations. Okay, so let's look at the highly credible, scientifically backed reasons why traveling through this specific patch of ocean can genuinely be dangerous. Because there are very real physical threats out there. First off, human error. Before modern GPS was a thing, making a tiny navigation mistake in a vast, featureless ocean was incredibly easy, and honestly, often fatal. Add weather to the mix. The North Atlantic is notorious for these sudden, violent storms and fast-forming hurricanes. And finally, we have rogue waves. These are literally massive, terrifying walls of water that pop up out of nowhere and can capsize a huge ship in an instant. So you combine a simple navigation error with a sudden storm or a rogue wave, and you've got a deadly, real-world mix. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but why do these disappearing ships leave absolutely no trace? Well, the answer there is the Gulf Stream. It's this incredibly powerful, incredibly swift ocean current that cuts right through the Bermuda Triangle. Think of it like a massive, rushing river straight through the ocean. If a ship or plane bears down, the Gulf Stream acts as the ultimate cleaner. It sweeps wreckage and debris away almost instantly. And that is exactly why search parties so often find absolutely nothing. There's also this fascinating theory involving some really unique ocean geology, methane gas hydrates. The idea here is that massive bubbles of methane gas erupt from the ocean floor, and as they rush up to the surface, they significantly lower the density of the water. So if a ship just happens to be right above one of these eruptions, the water suddenly can't support its weight anymore, and the ship drops like a rock. Now, while this is a super interesting scientific concept, it's worth mentioning that its actual danger to ships in this specific area is still heavily debated by experts. Which brings us to Section 3, the reality checks. We've talked about the spooky myths, we've looked at the intense natural hazards, but now it's time to deliver the final verdict, based on cold, hard data. Listen to this. The disappearance rate in the Bermuda Triangle is not higher than in comparable areas of the ocean. That is not just some opinion. That statistical reality comes straight from the highest maritime authorities in the world, Lloyd's of London and the United States Coast Guard. A statement like that acts as a massive reality check, completely shattering the whole illusion of a cursed ocean. The hard numbers tell a very clear, if slightly boring, story. The disappearance rates in the Bermuda Triangle sit at the exact same level as any other busy ocean region. And that's the key part to remember. The Bermuda Triangle is an incredibly heavily trafficked route for both ships and planes. Because there is so much traffic, sure, it naturally records a higher raw number of incidents, but statistically, as a percentage of the total traffic going through there, the disappearances are completely average. So that begs the question, why do we all believe this myth if the statistics are so completely normal? Well, it all pretty much points back to the year 1974. That's when a guy named Charles Berlitz published a wildly successful book on the Bermuda Triangle. It was this specific piece of media that just aggressively fueled a global frenzy, basically locking the myth into our pop culture forever. Ultimately, the bottom line of today's explainer is pretty clear. Our deep dive into the sources proves that the real culprits here aren't aliens, they aren't time portals, and they certainly aren't ancient Atlantean technology. The mystery is strictly the result of sensationalized storytelling, media hype, and selective reporting. The paranormal activity simply doesn't exist in the data. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a quick psychological question about human nature. If the statistics definitively prove that everything out there is completely normal, do we just fundamentally prefer believing in a mysterious, exciting myth over the plain, boring truth? It's definitely something to think about the next time you hear about a legendary mystery. Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep questioning the world around you.